Okay, well, thank you very much for that warm welcome. It's lovely to be here today. Did you know that 80% of the population has thought about writing a book sometime? And of that 80%, actually 40% will start writing their book. Of the 40%, 2 will finish a book manuscript. And of that 2%, 13% will go on and get their book published. What that means in real numbers is that of 10,000 people in a certain population, 8,000 people will have thought about writing a book. 3,200 will actually start writing their book. Only 64 finish a book manuscript, and about 8 people will go on and get their book published. So 8,000 people want to, and about 8 actually do it. I think that part of the reason for that low show rate is that a lot of us have allowed fear to take charge of our lives and eliminate our choices and limit our futures. Ladies and gentlemen, as Matt mentioned, my name is Susan Crossman, and I think also that one of the reasons that things aren't going so well for us quite often when it comes to making our dreams come true is that fear quite often drives us and locks us into tiny little restricted lives that prevent us from connecting heart to heart with people, but also prevent us from experiencing those moments of wonder that elevate and inspire us and help us experience the majesty and magnificence of what is available to us as human beings in a body on a planet. Before I became a published author, and long before I became a book coach and an editor, my dream had been to become a professional writer. And I made that dream come true. And for many years, I worked as a journalist, a government communications consultant, a corporate communications writer, and a marketing copywriter. And it really was a dream come true to show up every day at work, write all day long, and know that somebody was paying me to do that. But I had a bigger dream, and it was a really scary dream. I wanted to become a published author. And I had been writing professionally for quite a long time by this time, but I was really scared of that whole idea. I was thinking now, who am I to write a book? Who would ever read anything that I would write in a book? How do you write a book anyway? And also, how do you get a book published? One day, my husband came to me, and he said, "You've been thinking about writing a book for a long time." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I really, really, really want to write a book." And he looked at me in the way that only an exasperated partner can. He said, "So what is stopping you?" If I had known myself a little bit better at the time, I would have quite correctly said, "I'm terrified." But as it was, I was so paralyzed by fear, even just at the question that he had asked, that I said, "Well, nothing is stopping me." And that's how I got started writing my first book. I did get that book finished. Since then, I have written and published 4 more traditionally published books. And now I work as a book coach and an editor, helping other people make that dream of becoming a published author come true. And in my time of working in the book world, I've come to realize that there are 3 main steps that we need to take in order to tame the fear monster so that we can make our dreams come true. And those 3 steps are: number 1, say yes to your dream. Number 2, commit to your future. And number 3, prioritize the action steps that you need to take in order to make your dream come true. Often our dreams come wrapped in a cloak of terror. Writing a book, speaking on stage, starting a business. Those actions, those dreams, are sometimes really hard to say yes to. We often have kind of a knee-jerk reaction where we think, well, what if I'm no good? Or what if people don't like me? Or what if my life changes? It took me 13 years to write my first book. And a big part of that was that I was convinced my life was going to change out of all recognition. And it was a really scary thing for me to think that. I had one particular worry about how my life was going to change for a long time, and that was that I was convinced that I was going to be swamped by the paparazzi. How was I ever going to parent my children when I was dealing with the press all the time? And it seems kind of silly now. That didn't happen. It hasn't happened to anybody I've known who has written a book. And yet it was one of the reasons I was able to say no to my dream rather than saying yes to my dream. That kind of brings us to step number 2 in taming that fear monster, which is commit to your future. I mentioned in the beginning that of 8,000 people who want to write a book, only about 8 actually carry through with the project and get their book published. That's a lot of commitment. 8,000 down to 8 people. Those 8 people have been very committed to their project. And I've heard in the context of writing a book that it can take 1,000 hours to write a book. 1,000 hours is a lot of hours. And I'm sure that's equally true for people who are learning to speak on stage. 1,000 hours to get good at that, that sounds reasonable to me. 1,000 hours to start a successful business, sounds reasonable to me too. And so commitment is a really key part of making sure those dreams come true. The kind of the soft underbelly of commitment is prioritization. We may think that we want to write a book, but unless we're willing to prioritize the action steps that we need to take in order to make that come true, it's probably not going to happen. So in the context of writing a book, well, unless we have dedicated time in our calendar every week to work on that project, we're probably not going to get there. If we want to be a good speaker and have a career as a speaker, where in our calendar are we allocating that time to learn how to be a good speaker, but also to learn about the business model surrounding speaking? And if we want to run a business, what are we willing to let go of in our daily lives in order to prioritize the action we need to take in order to run a business? Prioritization means even though the kitchen's messy and our smartphone is pinging and our best friend might be calling, we stay focused and stay on track so that we are doing the things we need to do in order to make that dream come true. I was the queen of procrastination. And I wasn't saying yes to my dream. I wasn't doing a lot of things that needed to be done in order for me to prioritize writing my book. And one day, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And 3 months later, he was gone. I was home with our kids. I was an at-home mom. I was really good at wiping noses and making lunches. We had 5 children in our blended family. Our youngest kids were 7 and 9 years old, and my world completely collapsed around me. I had no idea what to do. I didn't know how I was going to carry on. I didn't even know how to get through the day. It also occurred to me that I might die too. And I might die before I could raise my children to be functioning, thriving adults. I might also die before I could find out if I could become a published author. So it was a time of great fear for me, a time of trauma. Eventually, I crawled over to the couch, picked myself up onto it, stopped crying, and the first thing I did was start a business. I figured, having been home with my kids for 11 years, I was completely unemployable. But I knew I wasn't going to fire myself, so I could do that. And so I started my business at that point. I also really focused on creating the time to work on that book. I prioritized the writing of that book. And I got it finished. I finished my manuscript. And eventually I hired an editor. Okay, I hired 2 editors because I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I got the book edited. And about 2 years later, I managed to land a publishing contract with a traditional publishing company. It was the proudest day of my life. I made my dream come true. It was a little sad because my partner in crime, the man who had basically dared me to start writing my book, wasn't there to share it with me in the physical. But it was amazing to feel the accomplishment of getting that book published. A lot of opportunities opened up for me on the other side of getting that book published. It was amazing how things just seemed to come true for me. And I invite you to consider, if you're grappling with your dream that you want to make sure that comes true, I really invite you to remember that on the other side of that big, scary dream are possibilities you cannot even imagine yet. They're waiting for you to step into the courage that it takes to make a dream come true. It can take an unbelievable amount of courage to make a dream come true. But fortunately, I believe we have far more courage than we realize. The way I've seen this happen a lot, I think there's something going on. I think what's happening is that as we make our dream come true, as we grapple with it and we take that action and we step into the courage that it takes and all of the good things that it takes to make a dream come true, as we do that, we are unlocking amazing possibilities for ourselves. And as we unlock those amazing possibilities, those big, scary dreams stop seeming so big and so scary. We start to meet nice people. We start to realize other people have been afraid of things too. We start to also see that we human beings are a lot alike and that good things happen, even when our partner dies or we're swamped by the press. So as we end our time together today, I invite you to say yes to your dreams, to commit to your future, to prioritize the steps you need to take in order to make that dream come true. As you are doing that, you'll need to realize also that out there is a book or a stage or a business with your name on it. And as you're busy saying yes to your dream, you're giving a whole lot of other people courage to say yes to their dreams too. And as we're all busy out there saying yes to our dreams, we're unlocking amazing possibilities for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for our planet. At the same time, we are honoring that one precious life that we've been given. We can be the 1 in 1,000 who makes our dreams come true. And there's nothing stopping us. So thank you for your time today. May your dreams be huge, and may peace be with you.